What's my line? I don't know. Okay. Hey, this is Peter Dankelson from Pete's Diary, and Black Sabbath has been streaming through my hearing aid this week. I first discovered Black Sabbath my sophomore year of high school, and I remember it pretty well. Um, One of the first conversations I can remember having about the band was with a friend at Driver's Ed. I remember it specifically really well. You know, I was very deep into like AC/DC and maybe some of these other kind of classic bands, but I hadn't quite found Sabbath yet. And I've been playing for maybe under a year at this point, so not too long into my journey at all. And I remember talking, with my friend, and he's like, Sabbath, Black Sabbath is one of my favorite bands. I'm like, I don't think I've really heard them yet. And he's like, what do you mean? So I think I found Iron Man after that and was hooked immediately. And then, it was like I call it like the big three, right? You had Iron Man, War Pigs, and Paranoid. I heard those three, and I'm like, okay. I'm in. And then, you kind of go down the line and you find more songs as you go further. But I was hooked on the big three right away, and yeah, they're still some of my favorite songs of all time. My band, we pretty much played all those songs at some point. So yeah, so that was my introduction to Sabbath. So besides the riffs and the really killer guitar playing with Sabbath, and getting introduced to Tony Iommi, of course, the big thing with Tony that you find out, pretty early on, is the accident with his fingers. And I feel like if you're watching this, you probably heard that story a million times. There's tons of interviews of Tony talking about it. But long story short, if you might not know, he had the tips of his fingers chopped off in an industrial accident, and eventually he found he made his own prosthetic fingertips, and was able to play that way. And eventually it led to him down tuning his guitar to like C sharp standard tuning, and had this heavier sound which was perfect for Sabbath. And and then we got heavy metal. So I really, with Tony's story, the thing that stood out to me was how he didn't let this thing that had happened to him hold him back. And really, this challenge led to innovation, if that makes sense. If he hadn't had his fingertips chopped off in that accident, he might not have tuned the guitar down so low to help with, bending and, and all of that. So to me, that was something that really stood out because, I've had numerous medical things that I've had to go through and all of these different, personal challenges in my life. And I guess not as severe as Tony's, obviously, but with my own thing, I don't have muscle in my left thumb. So, some guitar necks are much more manageable and easier to play than others. But, really with Tony, the main thing was, I'm like, well, if, Tony had the tips of his fingers, chopped off, and he was still able to do all of this great music and create a whole different style of music, I shouldn't let anything else hold me back, and I could do anything if I set my mind to it. So more than just the music and the obviously great riffs that Tony has written, that kind of story of how Tony overcame his challenges really inspired me in that way as well. So Tony's much more than a musical inspiration. I can't thank him enough for that. So with Sabbath, it goes without saying, I think that Tony Iommi is one of the greatest riff writers of all time. So it's pretty tough to choose just three of my favorites. But I did narrow it down to Into the Void off of Masters of Reality, Symptom of the Universe from Sabotage, and Supernaut from Volume 4. So for me, when I heard Into the Void, I think this thing that stood out to me immediately was just, of course, how heavy the riff was. But it just had this huge, deep groove to it that I instantly clicked to. And I think it's kind of the same with everybody else that heard it. Because, you hear so many people. I know Eddie Van Halen had said, Into the Void was always one of his favorite riffs as well. I think it's kind of a big favorite among any Sabbath fan, and for good reason too. I really do think it's one of the best in their whole catalog. It's such a fun riff to play. So that was a look at Into the Void. So much fun to play. Killer riff. This next one that I want to share with you guys is a song called Symptom of the Universe from Sabotage. It's a really great heavy riff. Lots of fun to play. So that was a look at Symptom of the Universe. Again, one of my all-time favorite Sabbath riffs. It just hits you like a freight train. It's even got that cool kind of acoustic kind of section towards the end, which is pretty neat. Kind of a total shift of tempo and mood, but it's a lot of fun. And this last riff that I want to show you guys, it's a song called Supernaut from Volume 4. Great, deep groove to this riff, and it's a lot of fun to play. And like all the other riffs too, it's in C sharp standard tuning. So that's just 3 of my favorite Sabbath riffs. I mean, the list goes on and on with, so many killer tunes, such as Fairies Wear Boots. Of course, like I mentioned, you got the big 3 classics, like, War Pigs and Iron Man and Paranoid, stuff like Heaven and Hell and Neon Nights, Sabracadabra. I mean, Children of the Grave. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on with just so many great songs. So let me know in the comments below, what are some of your favorite Sabbath riffs and favorite tunes to play? Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, be kind and keep on rocking.